The monuments stand as a solemn reminder of the immense sacrifice made by the Soviet Union in World War II, a nation that endured the greatest human losses of any country, with an estimated 27 million dead. They particularly commemorate the soldiers who fell during the final, brutal phase of the Great Patriotic War, the Battle of Berlin. Across all three sites, the same elements repeat: monumental scale and militaristic heroism. Two memorials even carry gilded inscriptions of the mass murderer Stalin. The soldiers' graves, though numbering in the thousands, overshadowed by towering statues and monumental reliefs glorifying the Soviet cause. Built in 1945, just months after the city's capture, the Tiergarten Memorial was erected in the British sector of West Berlin and is said to have been constructed with stones from Hitler's destroyed Reich Chancellery. Early footage shows it rising from a wilderness of ruins. The design is striking, a curved stone colonnade flanked by two T-34 tanks that are said to be the first ones to have reached Hitler's capital. Two heavy artillery pieces are also on display. At its center stands a bronze Soviet soldier, his arm outstretched in salute. Behind the memorial lie the graves of over 2,000 Red Army soldiers who died in April and May 1945. Their exact number is unknown, and their graves are largely invisible. No individual headstones mark the vast lawns. Only a few sarcophagi and columns list names and regiments. After the invasion of Ukraine, the two tanks were covered by Ukrainian flags by protesters. The memorial in Treptower Park in Berlin's east is the largest Soviet memorial in all of Germany and also the most imposing. The path begins beneath the triumphal arch, bearing an inscription that honors those who gave their lives for the freedom and independence of the socialist homeland. The space opens into a forecourt where a 3-meter statue of Mother Homeland greets visitors, a solemn figure of a grieving Mother Russia mourning the sons she has lost. From here, the central vista unfolds, drawing the eye towards the main monument at the far end of the park. Steps lead down into a sunken lawn. Around it stand 16 towering limestone sarcophagi. Their reliefs show scenes of war, the German invasion, destruction in Soviet cities, the suffering and sacrifice of the people, the heroism of the Red Army, and final victory. On the sides, facing the field, Stalin's quotes are repeated again and again, gilded in gold, in Russian to the north, in German to the south, praising the Red Army. The path leads towards the vast burial mound, the kurgan. On top rises the 12-meter bronze of the Liberator, a Red Army soldier holding a rescued child, crushing a swastika under his sword. The memorial opened in 1949, just 4 years after the end of the war. While Berlin was still in ruins, housing was scarce, food was rationed, but the Soviets made this monument a priority. In later decades, the German government spent millions on restorations, regilding Stalin's words and repairing the bronze soldier. Of course, remembrance organized by the state cherry-picks and carefully chooses which parts of Soviet history to highlight and which to ignore. Judging only from his quotes on public display, Stalin comes off as a great liberator, with no mention of the brutal crimes he committed. Accordingly, the inscriptions date the war only from 1941 to 1945, erasing earlier Soviet complicity with Nazi Germany. The arrival of the Red Army was also far from heroic. The mass rapes left deep scars among the local population, with locals nicknaming the Treptower Memorial the Memorial of the Unknown Rapist. From the start, the memorials were meant to plant a flag in the conquered Berlin. During the Cold War, the site became a stage for mass rallies and state rituals in the GDR, often more about projecting victory than mourning the dead. Officially, the memorial is also a cemetery for 7,200 Red Army soldiers who died in the Battle of Berlin. But walking through it, you might not realize it's a cemetery at all. There are no rows of headstones and no visible graves. In the end, how the Soviet Union treated its soldiers in life seems reflected in how they are remembered in death, anonymous, overshadowed, and used for the purposes of the state. The Schönholzer Heide Memorial contains the largest Soviet cemetery in Berlin and the largest Russian military cemetery in Europe outside of Russia. Unlike the other Soviet memorials in Berlin, Schönholzer Heide is the only one that feels more like a real cemetery. Here, along the central axis, 8 burial chambers hold the remains of the fallen soldiers. 100 bronze plaques list the names, ranks, and birth years of soldiers who fell during the Battle of Berlin. 13,200 of the approximately 80,000 Red Army soldiers who died in the final battles in 1945 were laid to rest. Only about a fifth of the dead soldiers could be identified, the rest remained anonymous. The 33-meter-high obelisk at the end of the axis is decorated with the names of 42 Soviet officers. In front of the obelisk stands the main monument, a statue of the Russian mother homeland, mourning her fallen son. A hidden memorial even commemorates Soviet soldiers who died as prisoners of war in German captivity, a rare acknowledgement given that returning POWs in the Soviet Union were routinely labeled traitors and sent to the Gulag.